بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. ربنا زدنا علما. اللهم إنا نسألك الإخلاص والقبول وأن تنفعنا اللهم بما نقول. اللهم أمين. وبعد. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to Tajweed 101 course, simple step-by-step Tajweed course that enables you inshallah to learn how to read the Quran properly inshallah. Welcome, my name is Maghfira and I am an online Quran teacher, and you are watching Maghfira 101, the place to learn and know and understand how to read the Quran properly inshallah and understand its meaning. And today inshallah we're going to continue the course that we already started. So let's see what's today's lesson inshallah. We knew that we have three categories of letters. Letters that are usually heavy, letters that are sometimes being heavy and some other times being light, med with alif, letter lam in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and letter ra, and letters that are usually light, which are the rest of the letters that are not in the first category and the second category. We started the first two videos, the letters that are sometimes being heavy and some other times being light, like the med with alif and the name of Allah. So today inshallah we are going to continue with the letter ra and what are the cases of letter ra to be sometimes being heavy and some other times being light. The first thing, letter ra, light in four cases, heavy in 8 cases, and can be both in 2 cases. Okay, we are going to start inshallah each category from these in a separate video in order not to have long video of letter ra and of this course, because I really prefer that the lessons to be short so that you can go to the point that you need if you need to revise later on inshallah. So today we are going to move to letter ra, which is being heavy in the 8 cases. So we are going to understand what are the 8 cases of letter ra that we need to know. The first thing we need to understand is we need to know the shape of the tongue when we read ra as a heavy or ra as a light letter. This is, as you may understand, when we have ra light, so the tip of the tongue is touching the gums on the point of the ra articulation point, as you see here beneath lam, ar, and make sure to leave a circle to allow the sound to be out. Ar, 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 like this. If you need any help with the ra sound, I will put for you the link for ra letter in the description inshallah. Next thing, that ra heavy, as you see here, notice that the lips aren't moved at all. There is no interference for the lips with the ra sound. Most of us, subhanallah, at the beginning, read ra as a ro with O shape of the lips and stretching the lips forward and using and depending on the lips when reading letter ra, which is completely wrong. Ra is a tongue letter, so we need to put the tip of the tongue on the gums and without using the lips at all. So the difference between ra heavy and light, that elevating the back of the tongue and narrowing the throat, keeping the echo of the sound inside the mouth, not pushing it outside, and making the sound in. So ra and ri, ra, ri, ra, ri, without lips at all. So the difference between the two ra is so clear here. The first image, which is this one, throat is wide. The throat opening is wide, while on the heavy one the tongue is elevated from the back, so the sound is a little bit like restricted, but it is not so much, but just the tongue is elevated from the back, so the throat is going to be narrow. So let's go now to understand the cases that we are going to understand it today, which is the heavy cases of ra, which we have 8 cases. So let's go now to the cases that we have for ra heavy. The first one is when we have ra fatha. In this case, we have to read ra as a heavy, like ra, 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 ma, rama, ramadan. Make sure not to use your lips at all. Ra, ra, ra. If you find that you make ro like this, you know that you use your lips. O sound is wrong on the ra letter. Rama, Rama, Ramadan. And don't use lips as well on the dad letter. So like ra, ra, Rama, Rama, Ramadan. Rasul, ra, rafa'a, rafa'a, ra, ra, rasul. You have to feel that. The back of the tongue is elevated and the tip of the tongue is touching the ra articulation point and the sound kept inside your mouth. Don't be pushed outside. Rasul. Rafa'a. Rafa'a. Like this. The second case when ra is heavy, when ra is carrying dhamma. Okay, so ra fatha in this case will be heavy, ra dhamma it will be heavy as well. So kafaru, ru. Make sure to elevate the back of the tongue and make the throat is a little bit narrower. And on the waw mad, the middle of the tongue is elevated so that you will hear the sound of ru, like this. The second case of ra as a heavy, when we have ra letter, when we have ra sukoon, and the letter before it is having a fatha, like maryama, like this. Okay. The next case of the ra that may be heavy is when the letter ra has sukoon and the letter before it has a dhamma. In this case, we have here qaf dhamma. In this case, we have qaf dhamma, then ra sukoon, then ba fatha and noon fatha. So qurbanan, don't use lips as well. Just use it as ra is heavy. So the third case is when we have ra sukoon preceded by fatha as maryama, and the next case, which is the fourth one, when we have ra with sukoon, then preceded letter is dhamma as qurbanan. The fifth case is when we have letter ra with a sukoon and the letter before it is sukoon, but before it there is a fatha. But it is not ya letter. And this is very, very important note. It is not a ya letter. So here we have ra sukoon and preceded by sukoon and preceded by fatha. So al-asr, asr, 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 wal-asr, like this. This is the fifth case that we have when we have ra with a heavy sound. If it is ya sukoon preceded by fatha, it will be another case. Inshallah, we are going to understand it. The next case that we are going to understand that is when we have the ra sukoon, okay, preceded by sukoon, preceded by dhamma. Okay, so ra sukoon preceded by sukoon preceded by dhamma. In this case, it will be heavy as well. So khusr, khusr, khusr. Here ra is heavy as well, and sin is sukoon, and kha is dhamma. So khusr, 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 like this. Ra is heavy. Never ever use your lips because this is wrong. This is a wrong way on reading ra letter. Okay, and this is the sixth case. The seventh case is when we have letter ra has a sukoon and the letter before it has a presented sukoon, maybe this presented sukoon pronounced or estimated, which is between brackets hamzatul wasl. So when we have ra sukoon preceded by hamzatul wasl, in this case we have to make it a heavy sound. Okay, like when we have irji'u, this is hamzatul wasl and followed by ra sukoon as well, or as you may notice that we read hamza kasra e, but this hamza is presented followed by ra sukoon. In this case you have to make it like heavy sound. Irji'u, irji'u. Okay, so when we have hamzatul wasl presented, and then we followed by ra sukoon. So this hamzatul wasl is originated as a hamza. Okay, there is a hamza with a sukoon. So in this case, this is a sukoon, presented sukoon. When we going to read it, we will read it with a kasra. So it will be irji'u. The next example is alladhi irtada. This example is so common, you may notice it. Okay, in this case, ra sukoon preceded by hamzatul wasl. And hamzatul wasl, it is a hamza having sukoon, and this sukoon is presented. Means that it is not, we will read it with a haraka. So in this case it will be irta. So it will be irtada, like this. The eighth case and the last case is when we have letter ra has a sukoon and the letter before it has a kasra and after it there is a letter and it is a heavy letter. Okay, so ra sukoon preceded by kasra followed by a heavy letter. Like وإرصادا. Here we have hamza kasra, e, then ra sukoon, and then sad, which is. So in this case we are going to read it as a heavy ra. وإرصادا. As you may notice, it's preceded by kasra, and in this case we are going to read it as a heavy sound because it's followed by a heavy sad letter. The second example is قرطاس. قرطاس, the same. Qaf kasra, preceded by kasra, then followed by ta, which is ta, heavy letter. In this case, ra in this case will be heavy, so it will be قرطاس. Although it is preceded by kasra, but we are going to read ra heavy. The following example is فرقة. So here fa kasra and then ra sukoon and followed by qaf heavy. So it will be ra heavy. فرقة, like this. So these are all the heavy cases for ra. Just practice them and just make sure you understand each one. And when you recite this ra, you must know what is the reason for making it heavy. If you have any question, I'm completely welcoming all of you, inshallah. And the last thing for today's lesson is let's see how the shape of our tongue when we have heavy ra, as we took it maybe on the beginning of this lesson, we need to make this on the heavy ra. Touch the tip of the tongue on the gums, elevate the back of the tongue and make the throat narrow. You have to feel the throat narrow and the sound should be inside your mouth. Don't push it outside. It is so important. Keep the sound to be inside your mouth, elevate the back of the tongue and narrower than the normal case. Okay, so this all I have on this lesson. Let's stop here today. Inshallah, next lesson we'll continue بإذن الله تعالى. جزاكم الله خيرا for watching. Catch you on the next lesson بإذن الله تعالى. سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.